What is up, everybody, and welcome back to yet another episode of the Tight Lines Podcast, your favorite fishing podcast on the internet. So I don't know about the rest of you guys, but it's getting very cold here in central Indiana right about now. We just had some snow this week, crazy enough, which kind of sucked. But it is getting very cold here. Water's freezing, and so I figured why not talk about my top 3 cold water bass fishing lures. Figured it'd be a great time. Everyone else up here in the Midwest and up north of us can relate to this. You lucky guys down in the South, keep enjoying your warm water and warm weather all year. So we'll talk about my 3 top cold water bass fishing lures. We'll talk types, sizes, techniques, gear, colors, brands, etc. for each of these lures. And all this is coming at you right here on the Tight Lines Podcast. So we're going to get right into it. No BS in you guys today. So we're going to start off with the first one, which is the jerkbait. Who would have thought? But the jerkbait is a long, slender kind of minnow-style bait. It's got a little lip on the front like a crankbait, but a little different. And it is fished using a twitch method, and to cause like random sudden jumps and glides and darts and stuff like that to entice fish to come bite. It's actually one of the few lures out there that can actually, really draws fish to the lure rather than just throwing the lure right next to the fish and the fish just bites because it's there. So we're going to talk about the 3 types of jerkbaits because there's 3. There's actually kind of 4 now, but we'll talk about that in a moment. The first type is a sinking jerkbait, which pretty much means when you're not moving the jerkbait, all it's doing is sinking towards the bottom. It's not rising back up. The next is a floating jerkbait. Again, when it's not moving, the jerkbait is kind of rising towards the surface of the water and going towards the top. And the third and final is a suspending jerkbait. Well, when I say final, we'll talk in a second. And this is the most common, which you normally see when jerkbait's not moving. It kind of just stays in place in the water column, doesn't really move up or down. As you guys have seen, Berkley recently came out with the Kredge, which when you twitch it actually goes up and then it sinks again. So kind of different than these other ones, but at the same time not really. So just kind of out there. So now we're going to talk about how you fish a jerkbait. Again, we're going right into this stuff. We're 2 minutes in, you guys, and I'm hitting you with the good stuff. So a jerkbait is fished by twitching your rod. So it's kind of similar to how you would walk a spook, which causes the jerkbait to, jerk, hence the idea of a jerkbait. These twitches can be done at different tempos with pauses and have different durations to entice fish. I'll talk about the couple different ways that I fish a jerkbait in just a moment. You can either do it with the rod tip down so you don't rip the bait up out of the water, or if it's one of the sinking ones, or if it's the Kredge, you kind of jerk it up so it twitches back up towards the top a little bit. In warmer waters, it's going to be more twitches with less of a pause. And then in colder waters, typically you're going to have longer pauses, especially with those suspending jerkbaits where fish will kind of get time to look at it and move over and bite it. So kind of the couple cadences that I fish. There's 3 real big ones. The first one is just kind of a steady cadence where you kind of do like a twitch, twitch, pause, twitch, twitch, pause, twitch, 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 pause. Keeping, 2 or 3 twitches, having a pause, and then twitching again. And keeping this at a steady tempo, not really going like twitch, twitch, 8-second pause, twitch, twitch, 12-second pause, twitch, twitch, 2-second pause. It's kind of, a 3-count pause or 4-count pause, somewhere in there, but kind of making sure that everything's staying within a good cadence and a good tempo. You're not really switching things up too much because fish typically like to bite when there's something that looks normal, and you'd think that sometimes holding it there longer would make the fish want to come bite, but that usually scares them off and freaks them out. The next tempo or cadence that I do is just a fast, almost like burning cadence, where it's like twitch, 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 twitch. I'm just kind of twitching it through the water. Again, do that a lot more in warmer water when fish aren't as lethargic. I'll do this over grass if you can get fish to shoot up out of it. But works really well in open water, especially if you have a nice flashy jerkbait, and we'll talk about colors in a minute. But really good for, it's another good cadence to just kind of twitch, 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 and just kind of working that slack out the whole time with your reel, but really only moving the bait with your rod tip. And the last one is more of just like a pause method where you're kind of just twitching it and then letting it sit. And twitching it and letting it sit. When I say letting it sit, 25, 30 seconds sometimes, just letting that bait sit there and just let fish look at it, let fish think about it. And they might eventually bite and they might not. This is the absolute worst way to fish. I hate fishing like this, but sometimes it's what you got to do. So what do I fish jerkbaits on? I fish it on a moderate fast rod because I like the parabolic bend, so I'm not ripping trebles out too much, especially with these smaller trebles. I don't want to be bending trebles out either. So I use my Dobyns Maverick 705 CB. It's a 7 foot, I believe it's a medium or a medium heavy. I can't remember. I think it's a medium heavy. And then moderate fast tip, and I have a Shimano Corrado 7.4 to 1 reel on it. I like traditional speed reel in 150 size. I want to go super slow, don't want to go super fast. This size is easy to palm for me. It's just kind of good all around. I also use this rod for crankbaits, and I use it for spinnerbaits a little bit. I don't use it for deep cranking. 7.4 to 1 is too fast for deep cranking, but now what we're worried about right now, just a nice middle of the road reel is perfect. And I've got on 10 pounds Seaguar fluorocarbon on there as well. I like fluor because it stays in the water, sinks a little bit. It's not going to pull that bait straight up out of the water, so it's really good, especially for those suspending jerk baits, to help it get down deeper. Also, you're fishing some clear water, so you don't want, in my opinion, you want braid that's going to get fish line shy. Just a good fluorocarbon works well. So, on to brand sizes and colors. I like traditional colors for jerk baits, kind of forage impersonation, so silvers, blues, greens, blacks, bone colors. And then obviously you also like to have some sort of flash. So if you can find like a chrome color or silver, something that's real shiny. I know that US Harry is really good at those. I know there's some other brands. I know like Smithwick, some of their Rogues have a nice chrome finish to them, or they're real shiny. And you can find them kind of everywhere. Just kind of look through. Going on to sizes, I like about the 110-ish size. Somewhere between a 90 and 130. You can get like the 110 juniors from Megavast, which are 90 millimeters, all the way up to like the Husky Jerk is like 130 millimeter size. But obviously somewhere between like a 110 and 112 is normally what you're seeing out of Megabass with their Vision 110s, with the 6 cents per Vokes, with like the Rogues from Smithwick. So just kind of, looking at, a pretty standard size. Don't want to go super duper small. I don't like super big. Personally, I like 3 treble hooks as well. I'm not a 2 treble hook guy. I like 3 treble hooks. I think it balances the bait a little bit better. Has a little bit better action. Also, there's not as much of a spot for a fish to miss the bait somehow. And these lures are anywhere from $8 to over $25. It depends on what brand, what color. I mean, Smithwick Rogues are $8 or $9. Rapala Husky Jerks are about 10. Megabass Vision 110s are 25 or more. And they go up from there. So, there's all sorts of price out there. You got to just find what works for you. Some of them have different actions. I know like more of like the Provokes and the Vision 110s are more of like a darting action, where like the old Rogues are more of like a rolling action when they're fishing rather than like a hard dart. So just kind of figure out what works for you, what size works well for you. Obviously, if you got smaller fish, you're gonna have to a little bit smaller bait. If you got bigger fish, you can get away with maybe a little bit bigger jerk bait. But yeah, so where to throw this real quick. Again, this is an open water technique. You don't want this hitting the ground at all. These need to stay up off the ground. You don't want them to dig. You don't want them to catch. These need to be out in the open. They need to be able, this is suspending. So you need them to be able to suspend and kind of sit there and float in the water, and that's when you're really going to get fish to bite. So that is the first bait, and that is the jerk bait. Ton of information there for you guys. Hopefully it all made sense. Again, I'm still learning jerk baits as well, so don't take everything I say as, God's word. Take a little bit of grain of salt to figure out what works for you as well. What works for me may not work for you, and vice versa. Obviously, we all fish different waters. We have different techniques. We're all good at different things. So just, trying to learn, what works for you. Go out, fish. When you're out there, don't be absent-minded. Sit there and think, okay, have a purpose to your cast. So cast it and do one cadence for a couple times and see if you get anything out of it. And then switch your cadences. And if they start biting that, well, guess what? That's the cadence that's working. So sit there and learn and think and develop patterns when you're out there fishing. Don't just sit there and be absent-minded the whole time. So our second bait here is going to be the blade bait. And blade bait is real simple. It's a thin metal lipless crankbait style bait. They're extremely small. They have 1 or 2 treble hooks underneath and sometimes a little bit of like a spinner on the back. But typically it is just going to be a small little thin piece of metal and then 2 treble hooks. So how do you fish it? There's 3 ways. The first technique is a straight retrieve, which is the most simple. It's literally you just chuck it out and you wind it in. It's going to vibrate in like heck, and like I said, it's going to feel just like a lipless crankbait. Usually for this, I'm keeping my rod tip up. These baits, like I said, they're just straight leads. They're going to bomb cast a mile. At the same time, they're going to sink like crazy. So you got to keep your rod tip up, keep them off the bottom. You don't want to snag on anything. But chuck and wind's the first way. The second method of fishing in blade bait is called yo-yoing, and I actually learned this from listening to a different podcast. I'll shout him out. It's the Tackle Talk podcast. Talk about him all the time. I learned about this one from him, and you bomb cast out, let it sink to the bottom, and then rip it straight up. And when you do that, that's when you're taking all the slack out, and then you let it flutter back down, almost like you're working a Ned rig or a worm or a jig. Just almost you're yo-yoing it, right? And you're going to repeat this over and over again until you find, hopefully a fish bites, typically on the fluttered downs when you're going to get the fish to bite. And the third and final method I call ripping the bait. And this is where you're kind of doing a straight retrieve, but it's a variation of it. So when you're retrieving, you're sitting there and you are just going to, every once in a while, just like with your rod tip, just sweep your rod tip and just rip that bait, especially if you feel it getting into some grass, getting around some rock. Really give it a good rip and really fire it up. Sometimes they'll really get a fish excited and get a good bite. What am I throwing this on? I'm throwing this on spinning gear. Me personally, I like it on spinning gear. If you like BFS gear for it, go BFS. These are typically light enough weight, about a quarter ounce, where you are, you can throw it at a half-ounce size and you throw bait casting. I think spinning's better for it. I use my all-around spinning combo. I don't think you need a special combo. It's the Maverick 702 SF from Dobbins. 7-foot medium light fast rod with a 6.2 to 1 Shimano Mirabel 2500 HG reel. That's in like the 6.2, I just said that, to 1 ratio with 10-pound monofilament. I like lighter spinning gear for the sensitivity. I also like the parabolic bend. Again, small treble hooks, not wanting to rip the blade or the trebles out of the fish. But yeah, and also think blade baits again, hunks of metal. They're going to absolutely bomb cast a country mile and a half. Spinning gear is perfect. You're not trying to be super accurate here. These are more open water baits. You're not fishing this up around structure because you have a couple treble hooks. You're going to get caught on stuff. So again, you want open water long bomb cast, and again monofilament, line shy fish. I kind of sit I'm on the fence on that sometimes, but if you can go mono, you can tie leader on a braid. I would if you're going anything under the water. Moving on to sizes and colors, I like blade baits to be between a quarter and a half ounce, typically on that quarter ounce size, and either silver or gold. It's really all you need. If you want to pick one out, go to Bass Pro Shops, get their XPS blade bait, like $5. They're everywhere, and everyone else charges more money for a hunk of metal. It's got a little bit of painting on it and some hooks. This is one of those where I'm just going to go buy the cheap brand because they're going to work the same as every other one. So that was our second bait, you guys, and that was the blade bait. Our third and final bait is going to be, who would have thought, the Ned rig. This one is super simple, especially in the cold transition. It works well for cold water, warm water, any time of year. The Ned rig is great, but I love it for these lethargic fish. It's traditionally used with an exposed hook. Obviously, recently we've seen the EWG Ned rig get some popularity. I'm not a fan of it because of the gear you're throwing it on. You don't want to really have to try and push that needle point through the plastic. You really want to just have that hook out, let them bite it, and just kind of apply pressure. It's designed to fish a few ways. Obviously, if you listen to Ned Katie talk about it, there's different ways he fishes it. I really only fish it one way. That's what we're going to talk about. It's caught me a ton of fish, and I think it works great. So I fish it like a jig. So literally cast it out, let it sink to the bottom, let it sit, sit there, keep a nice, taut line the whole time. Obviously you have to keep the line taut or else you're not going to feel the bites. Give it little hops, reel out that slack, and just kind of work it in. You can use it for sight fishing. If your water's really clear, you can see fish, kind of sight fish with it and flip up, next to them. But I'm just a big fan of just kind of hopping it along, letting it sit. Dead sticking it for a while is a great thing. That's typically when you're going to get a lot of bites, when you're dead sticking. And you're able, fish are getting a chance to look at it really good. The way to set the hook on this, let them bite, let them swallow it. Don't set the hook as soon as they bite it. Give them a second. They're not going to just spit it out immediately, typically. And all you do is just a nice upwards hook set. You're not, you're not ripping here. This isn't a frog, right? We're not doing frog hook sets. We're not punching and really having to, yank a fish out of grass. Guys, it's a light hook set. Just get, all you gotta do is, if you get a nice hook, get the hook in there and you're good to go. For colors and sizes for the jig head, I use anything quarter ounce or lighter, typically about a 1/8 to a 1/10 ounce. Looking at the Strike King or the Z-Man, shroom heads, those are always great. And then either a black or green pumpkin head. Typically like to have a bait keeper on them. I don't need a weed guard. Some of them have weed guards. I don't think it's horribly necessary. At the end of the day, it's not the worst thing in the world to have. For the soft plastic trailer, I am really just straight up just like Ned, very simple, 2 or 3 inch little stick bait on the back. I'm not doing beaver tails. I'm not typically throwing craws on there. I'm not throwing creature baits. I'm not doing anything funky. I'm kind of just going real simple. You can cut that. You can cut a Senko in half. Or you can go out and buy like the Ned TRDs. Everyone sells the Ned plastic now. Go out and buy those. I like those personally. I don't want a lot of action. These are meant to be very simple, very slow. Let it dead stick. Let it just sit there for a while, and let the fish really get a good look at it. Colors, I'm looking at black and blue, green pumpkin, kind of like an orangish color. If you can, just anything that's really natural. Honestly, we're not going, hot pink here. We're not going, fire crawl red. These are just going to be, at least for me and my what I've learned, is just very straightforward, very simple colors. Nothing super duper flashy. Again, not throwing anything special with it. It's a super simple bait, guys. No need to overcomplicate it. Really simple. For gear, we're throwing it on the same setup as the blade baits. That spinning combo. It's that 702 SF for me with the Miravel 2500 HG. That's my setup. Obviously, you guys find some, the setup that you're using. I like just a standard size. Can you go lighter? Yes. I also don't think you need to have a different rod and reel for every technique. I like to keep things simple. I've got my 4 combos that I fish. That's probably all I'm going to need. Might get a couple more at some point just for fun, but for my, most of my bass fishing, 4 combos does it for me. So, alright, guys, that is everything. Let's go back through real quick the 3 baits. And then that is going to wrap up the episode. So again, the first bait was the jerk bait, second bait was the blade bait, and the third was the Ned rig. So that's this week's episode for you all, and I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Again, keeping these short but packed with information for you guys. You can give it a quick listen on your drive to work while you're out fishing, sitting at home, talking to your girlfriend or whatever you're doing. Hopefully you guys are enjoying these episodes. And if you have, please be sure to drop us a positive review on whatever podcast platform you're tuning in with. It really does help to grow the show, whether it's, a 5-star rating or a written review. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Amazon. So go ahead and give us a follow on there as well if you can. Also go ahead and check out my Instagram and my YouTube. Give us a sub there if you're not already watching on YouTube. Both of them are titled Tyler Plackey Fishing. It's all one word, TYLER. PLACKEFISHING. Pretty simple. Go on there. You can see what I've been up to. You can DM me suggestions for the show, ask questions for the tackle box, or just chat with me about fishing, life, anything else. Love to talk to you guys. Love to interact with you. It's been a ton of fun. And I really do appreciate you guys, a ton for listening every week. You guys are the reason I put the show on. I have fun making it myself, sitting here in my spare bedroom, staring at a TV screen at 9:30 at night after I just got off a long day at work. But also, I like to have the episodes out for you guys because I'm learning how to fish still. I'm not a master anything at all fishing-wise. But the information I can pass on to you guys is, I want to, because I'm a self-taught fisherman. No one really taught me how to fish. It's been me going out and researching and figuring out what works for me, figuring out what doesn't. It's been trial and error. And so if I can make someone else's, day a little bit easier and have them, learning off of what I've learned, I would love to do that. So thank you guys again so much for listening. I really do appreciate all of your support and your time. Until next time, you guys, tight lines, y'all.